me, and it's a pleasure meeting all of you and learning about your businesses. I've been doing PR for over 20 years, and I started with an agency and did different industries, but then I started doing more specialized work in
Hold on. I'm sorry.
Did you hear any of that, or do I start over?
Start all over. I'm sorry. I muted everybody and you were part of it.
Let's blame the technical person. I'm just kidding.
Good one.
Should we go?
Yes.
So my name is Irene Mulonni, Mulonni, and it's a pleasure being here and meeting all of you. I've been in the public relations and media industry for about over 20 years, and I've done work in all the different industries, but I started to specialize in the medical device world since a lot of my clients came by referral. And I still do work in different industries, but most of my clients are in medical PR. With public relations, it's pretty much the same concept. So when you specialize or you work with someone that specializes, that just means that they have probably more connections and more experience with the terminology and that type of thing within that industry. So today we're going to cover things that cover all industries and on how to get how to get media for your business seems to be kind of I've noticed a mystery. People don't really know what PR specialists do, and even my own family members aren't exactly sure what I do for a living. So I think I want to first try to take a little bit of the mystery out and explain exactly what it is. It is many times with the larger companies within a marketing department, but it is separate then from advertising. So basically it's, if you're working with someone in PR, they work specifically to get your story, your innovation, your personal story, your service into a news outlet and get their attention and have them cover your information in that particular news outlet. A lot of companies that maybe cannot afford advertising will try to make sure they go through and figure out exactly where their clients or potential customers are, where they're reading, what they're watching, and then have those stories be in those specific outlets as a way to increase their business. Some will just want to get exposure as a thought leader in that particular space, so they will focus in that way. But if it's okay, we'll start first with our first topic, which is how do you identify the right media outlets and reporters for your industry. Shani, while we go through, I don't mind if we get questions. Is there a way you want that done? Do you want to stop me if there's a question or anything, or would you rather it go at the end?
I think we better go to the end and have people just hold on to the, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So how do you find the right media outlets and reporters for your industry? The number one thing I recommend is start to learn what your customers and clients are reading and watching. A lot of times they're also what you're reading and watching, but not always. So identify what that is and subscribe to it and start following it. If you are wanting to be in the Wall Street Journal, are you reading the Wall Street Journal on a daily basis? It seems kind of a given, but you won't believe how many people are wanting to be in a publication or a news outlet that don't actually cover or watch it or subscribe to it. They don't really know exactly what these reporters are writing about or how they're writing. So I highly recommend identifying who your clients, potential clients and customers are, and where they're going to for their news. Find the reporters that are covering your topics. You know, you want to make sure that you create your list, and it's going to take some research on your part. So if you're not working with a PR agency, you can do your own research while you're doing your daily, 30 minutes of going through those outlets. Start taking notes on which reporters are actually talking in those industry type things. And then what if they're not in their industry? Let's say you're watching the morning news. What are some of the ways that they're covering stories that are similar to yours, and kind of take note about it? Consider yourself a student in this space. And then once you identify the reporters and the news outlets, start making a list and follow them on social media. You know, they're people just like us, and they have interests and they have particular topics that they like to write about. So follow them on social media. Comment on their posts, but not overly so. If someone started commenting, on your post a million times, then you'd probably freak you out. So you don't want to do that, but you do want to start that relationship. And a lot of times I'm still amazed that on, social media, I've made friends on LinkedIn based on some of the posts they've done and some of the comments I've put. And it's kind of been a back and forth type of professional relationship. Another thing I've always recommended, we're all so busy that a lot of times we don't keep up with what's going on in our world in general. So keep up with I subscribe to, let's say, the New York Times, and they send me a letter in the morning every day saying, here are the hot topics of what's happening in the world today. You can use that, or you can use different techniques. There's a million of them on what's going on, and you can keep. A lot of times, if you're wanting to pitch your business, it's great to connect with what other item is going on in the world, because it makes it very time sensitive versus just pitching a story that can be covered at any time. I personally use an online software called BuzzStream to keep all of the contacts that I have. It allows me to keep notes on, when I've called or talked to a reporter. But another cool feature is it lets me email the same pitch to a lot of reporters at once. But I'm going to give you a caution. I never do that. I still send it individually, and I customize my pitches individually. You never want to just throw out a pitch to 100 people hoping that something will stick. It just never works well. But if you go through, done your research, you followed them on social media, you know exactly the type of stories that they're writing, you customize each one specific to them, but this type of software lets you do it and save time. A lot of times I recommend for people to, once you kind of get to know the publication and the reporter, is to reach out via an email and just introduce yourself. A lot of times when you take the time to introduce yourself, you expect that, especially if they honor you by giving you an interview, you expect the story to be done for that time allotted. But it's a really good idea to, introduce yourself and expect nothing. Basically, you're just wanting to get on their radar. You want to tell them what your business is doing, and then offer to be a resource for them if they're ever doing a story in this space, that you would be more than happy to assist in anything. And again, it's all part of that, creating that relationship. And, we all don't make friends that easily. It's a back and forth and a trust factor. So you really want to move slowly. And with PR, I think the expectation is, here it is. We all think that our product and service is the best thing, and we think it's going to change the world, and they need to cover it yesterday. And it's way more important than the article they just wrote today, because your business is going to really make a difference. And it's really important to kind of step back and take things, slowly. And, I always recommend, which I'm baffled why more people don't do this. There are industry publications. Let's say you're an attorney. There are industry publications that are looking for people to submit articles. And a lot of people are really intimidated by this. And if you have a specific, or like, let's say photography, if you have a specific area where you have expertise, you can put your bullets together, find a professional writer to pull it into a story, and then submit it to a publication. All of a sudden, you're a thought leader, because here you are submitting to multiple publications that are in your industry. And it's a little easier even to pitch press when you've submitted information. And the one key thing I want to mention, because I have this issue with some of my clients that write articles, is you want to make sure it's not self-promotional in your article. It has to be an educational article. And it's really hard when you live and breathe your business not to plug your business, but you have to do it in order to get credibility. Even if they put in your article, you want to make sure you come across as a thought leader and not someone that's wanting to, promote their business. And another thing I'm asked all the time is, well, where do you get the contact information for these reporters and producers? So if you're a small business, you probably, may not have the money for a database, but you can, nowadays, it's baffling to me how much you can find out about everybody. It's literally, you pay $20 for, I forgot what it's called, rocket search or something, and they give you the email address and the address for almost anybody, CEOs, reporters, and things like that. I personally, once you get to a point that you're wanting to really do a serious PR effort, you would either get a boutique agency, or I use a software called Cision. Another one that I really like is called Muck Rack, and they provide the direct email and phone number for pretty much a lot of the major publications and also the industry publications. So it makes a huge difference if you call the main operator and try to work your way through to the news desk, or if you call that particular, let's say, producer or reporter directly on their office phone. So those are the two softwares that I use. They are online and they're quite expensive. But, and again, it just depends on, a lot of times the agencies have that for you and they can pull those lists for you. As far as working with an agency, I personally prefer working with a boutique agency that's local and specializes in your area, pretty much because of what I shared. I mean, if you are with a New York agency and you are a large agency and you're, kind of paying in the lower part of the price range, in my common sense, I think that you probably will get more attention from a senior level person if you're with a boutique agency. But that's just my opinion. I'm not sure if that's, truth, actual fact. So press releases. This is, I have a love-hate relationship with press releases. Press releases are awesome. They are a one-pager normally. I recommend keeping it to a one-page that share your story in the way that you want to share it. So you want to share it with reporters, future clients, probably investors, and you want to keep it concise and not use terminology that would not be understandable to the general public. So this usually, especially in the larger companies, it starts out that way. By the time, you go through your 30th person that has provided comments, it starts to bring in some of that technical language, and become less and less what a reporter is looking for. So some companies use it to just update investors, and that's absolutely, you know, a great way of doing it. And the smaller companies use it to try to get media attention. So some of the things with press releases are that, you know, you want to keep it short and to the point. A lot of reporters go through hundreds of press releases a day. So you want to keep the title pertinent and the most important part of your press release and the first 3 to 4 lines of your press release. You want to include quotes, a quote from yourself or the founder. And then you want to include a quote from someone that does not benefit or is not part of your company, financially benefit as an investor or is not a part of your company. And then you want to have a boilerplate paragraph at the end of your press release, which basically means it's kind of like an about us you find on a website. This is who your organization is. A lot of times they say where it's located, it has the year you started, some of the things that, you know, the highlights you've done, but you want a really good, strong boilerplate that sounds professional. And it's even worth hiring a professional writer to write your boilerplate, because you put the same one on every single press release, and you can also utilize it in your About Us section on your website. So a lot of times the larger companies distribute through a wire service. This can be kind of costly. I always recommend for smaller businesses to utilize the wire service for the most important press releases, and the other ones just run them through your database of the research you've done or your agency has done on the reporters that cover your industry. But the large ones and for investors, you want to, you know, run it through a wireless, through the wire, and, you know, just know that that's going to be a little costly for a small business. I can't stress enough hiring a professional writer. These days, you can find a professional writer from $30 an hour. This is worth you staring at a white piece of paper. And, you know, a lot of times I find no one will, if you need heart surgery, you go to a heart surgeon, but I'm just baffled at how attorneys, engineers, no offense to anyone here, I'm sure none of you guys do this, but I'm just baffled how, you know, the heart surgeon will want to write the press release. And I'm like, for $30 an hour, you can get somebody that does this morning, noon, and night. And this is what they studied for, and this is their profession. So I highly recommend, if you're going to do press releases, make a relationship with a professional writer and get one that pretty much does this, you know, as their business. And there are a lot of freelancers. I found writers on, I can't remember the name of the exact name, but I'll look it up for you guys. But it's basically the writing associations in your city will have databases of professional writers. And if you don't want to pitch your story yourself or someone on your team to pitch your story, you know, you can even get a freelance PR person that, again, is like the writer, and there's so many now sources that you could go to. When you call to pitch, you have to be able to, it's almost like a cold call sales call, because if they're not expecting you, and that's why you want to build those relationships, you have 3 seconds to pretty much say, you know, what it is you're wanting to say. And that kind of makes people nervous, especially if they get a reporter on the phone that maybe has had a hard day and doesn't want to take the time for you to be able to share your story. So the press release makes it really helpful because you put everything on that one piece of paper, and when you call to follow up, because chances are if you've emailed them, they've not seen your press release because they get such a large influx of emails, is just mentioning that you're calling to follow up to make sure they've seen your press release. So do you always have to do a press release? No, you can also write an email pitch. So this is a few lines in an email that introduces yourself and then asks them if they would be interested in writing a story about what you feel is important. And in this one, I usually include right in the beginning a hello, just to be polite, introducing yourself in one line, who you are, couple lines on why this information is important that you're wanting to pitch, and then finish up with, I can provide more information. I would love to provide more information, or follow up your questions with a call. And then I usually put, with your permission, I'll follow up with a call, so they expect, my light just went off, sorry about that. So they expect, the call coming to them. And a lot of times those that don't want to get the call will respond to you just to have you not call and tell you that they're busy or to call back next month, or they've just done a story on this particular thing and they'll, look into it again the following month. So one of the key things with a pitch, you don't want it to be super long. You would be amazed how quickly an email becomes long. If you've been told by friends you write really long emails, that's a good sign to maybe have friends look at your pitch before you send them out. You don't want to have any attachments because everybody is worried about getting some kind of bug. And if you have pictures, like you're an artist and you're wanting to include pictures, put it on a social post and then link to the social post, or put it on Dropbox. Put it on something where they would recognize where they're going, because links are also kind of nerve-wracking. You don't want to get a virus on your computer. So you're one of the lucky ones. You did all your work and you got a media interview. So now what? How do we prepare for the media interview? You want to make sure that you write down the 3 things that you want to get across in the interview and have it with you. Run through and kind of do a practice run. If it's going to be television, record it if helpful, do it with a friend, but basically go through exactly how you're going to articulate your 3 points. If you're asked about something other than your 3 points, you can, be polite and answer the question and then immediately jump into your points, because your goal is to, provide a positive interview and also keep on track of why it is that you're wanting to do this publicity, which is getting your 3 top messages across. And even if you can get 1 message across, a lot of times people remember your words less than they do just the body language and the confidence that you portray for television media. So, practice that, record it and improve upon it. But just remember, you're the expert in that particular topic. So if your nerves are getting over, there's really nothing you can do wrong, because it's your business and it's your expertise and you're just taking your time, to share it. And when you're doing a written interview, I always recommend, if you have a PR person, to have them be on the call on mute, just to have another person listening in case you miss something. If they ask you for additional things, make a note and follow up with those additional things right away. It's always good to remember that reporters are always on a deadline, to know their deadline and to respond right away. They're giving you this opportunity to share your story, so you want to be super responsive with everything they are requiring. And then another thing I like to do, which I'm still amazed that a lot of people don't ask, is, I would love to, and you don't get this opportunity every time, but to ask if you could review your quotes prior to it going into print, and offering to help fact check, because a lot of times what you say may be taken the wrong way, or there's just so many different things. And let's say it goes into print and you see your article and you're like, wait a minute, that's not what I meant. A lot of times people just get really angry, and instead you could just send an email and say, hey, this is what happened. And the reporters and editors are, I've found, normally more than happy to make it right. They get how important this is to you, and they just have a fast-paced life, and sometimes things slip through the cracks. So for TV, dress very professional. Not a lot of makeup, but at the same time, you want to make sure that, you're not super shiny. You don't wear anything that's like a print that's tightly woven, like the plaid shirts for men. You can find all of these tips online, but do your homework. And if you've worked hard for that moment, make it the most it can be. If you're having a television interview, look for some pictures and video that you can provide where they can go to make it more interesting. Because afterwards, you want it to be more than you just speaking. You want it to be something that provides kind of the complete story. And I think that's pretty much it. I've probably given you guys a headache by now, but I wanted to provide some time for you to ask me questions, and that way I can address your specific questions as well.
Thank you. Very informative. This is the time where you can raise your hand and ask a question if you like. I definitely learned something at this last point where you said when somebody interviews you, make sure that you ask if you can check what they're going to be writing, because I have been victim of that many times where I've said so many important things as far as I was concerned, and they just picked things that they thought was, great article pieces. And then I'm like, wait a second, but the reason I said that was because I said all the other things before.
This. Yes, yes.
So definitely. Anyone here has any questions?
You can make it specific to your business, and I can respond in a way that would be helpful to everybody. So don't feel like, oh, I don't want to mention it because, not everybody on the call is a lawyer, an artist, or a photographer. You can ask your question and I'll make it more of a general.
Well,
I have two questions. I'm sorry. The first question is that how long you will be doing that first step as far as, trying to find an outlet. Is it a 2-week search? Is it a 2-month search? How long are you supposed to do that? The second question is that if a copywriter would also do the generally do the PR stuff, and help you do the other things that you were mentioning, or they just write something and then they say goodbye to you?
Those are two excellent questions. So I still every day find new writers. You would be amazed. One writer, if it's a local paper, one writer covers restaurants and the next week they cover medical device. So they change their beats all the time. You can tell yourself from day one, I'm going to be doing research every day and finding new writers. The second you find a writer and you feel comfortable, you can pitch them. So you can, in a day, have 5 writers and pitch them. You don't have to wait on it. But I recommend to get to know the writer, read some of their writing. So you can give yourself, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks just to get to know the writers that you identify, and then provide the pitch. And, feel free to let me know if I missed the question. And then on the second one, absolutely, some copywriters have done PR work for agencies. And you can make a judgment call. Do you want that person calling on behalf of your business? Some copywriters are very articulate and comfortable on the phone. And some writers will tell you they became writers so that they don't have to pitch stories. So they definitely, some writers will tell you that they will not call a reporter, and, they chose their profession on a purpose. But if you have an intern that's very articulate and teachable, they can assist you with the writing part and the pitching. So it's your call on making a judgment call if you want them to be answering questions and pitching your business, if that makes sense. Did I miss anything, Majid?
No, thank you. I mean, you did not. Yeah. Everything is fine. Thank you.
Okay.
So being that majority of us are small business owners,
Mhm.
do you think there's a possibility for a small business owner to pitch their business or reach out to, let's say, Mariam, who's doing these handmade paper designs on greeting cards or on frames, and wants to reach out and tell people this is something unique that she's doing. Does she go to the art section of the paper and look for a reporter in that area? And is that what you're suggesting? And is there a possibility for someone as small as her business is to be, featured?
Absolutely. I think reporters actually prefer people that are not PR people reaching out to them, especially if it's a local newspaper or television. I think they're very welcoming of small businesses and entrepreneurs. So I highly recommend it. It's one of those things that if you don't do it, it's a shame because you have this gift and you're not sharing it, at least with your local community. I would start getting to know all the morning programs and thinking, what can I do that would be interesting on that morning program? And now everything is Zoom. You don't even have to drive to the news station. You can literally do it from your home. And now, from my understanding, I haven't used it, but Zoom allows for 2 cameras. So you can have one showing your work, how you create something. Nowruz is coming. I know a lot of the news stations cover Persian New Year, and that might be, since you have something specific to that time sensitive item, that might be the time to pitch. And if it makes you nervous to be on television, you go to the newspapers and you reach out to them. And absolutely, I think it's a great way to, the hardest part is starting. It's unnerving. You're like, how am I going to speak on television? I've done a lot of television. I still get nervous. I get nervous. I was nervous, coming to speak to you. And so I think the part is just to let your butterflies be there, but know that you'll be absolutely fine. And normally people won't notice your nervousness. And some people say, well, I have an accent. Well, a lot of people, I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of Americans love the accents because, it's unique, and who wants to watch the same thing on the news all the time? So I would say embrace it, get to know all the local people, get to know all your local papers. And then once you get that, check out the industry stuff. There's industry art newspapers, there's industry, and all of these people have to come up with new stories each and every day or every week or every month. So think of it as you doing them a favor of providing information for them to be able to highlight.
Hannibal has a question. He has his hands up. Hannibal, do you want to ask your question?
Yes. As I told you, I'm an artist. So I'm also new in this country. I'm here for about 5 or about 6 years. And I try to be more familiar with the system in the US. So when I create art, when I do activities, and I think we do really great job. For example, in 2019, we had a tour to Malibu, San Francisco, then British Museum. Also, in this 2020, we had an international composition competition. Many people from all around the world came, and we had Pulitzer winner, judges. And I mean, it's really in a very high level. So I expect that media come after us and notice us and then cover us. And it's for example, in my country, it's very cheap to go after media and say, okay, I'm doing something, please come and see what I'm doing here. But it seems in the US it's different. You should do that, and you ask them to come. Can you please tell something about this to?
I'm sorry. Just to introduce Hannibal properly, he is a master musician with an Assyrian heritage and does international music and has been all around the world. So
Thank you.
wow.
He's someone that media should cover.
Thank
I
you
love
so
that.
much.
And I loved his question. And I actually have, you know, an Iranian American artist, which is not a musician, but I know that he's done a lot of collaborations with musicians. And I've been amazed how difficult the art space is. I don't know if it's just so much competition. Is there just a lot of artists and composers and musicians out there trying to get attention? Or it's just a very difficult space. So it's not something that is, you know, in your imagination. It is a difficult space to get attention on, but it's not impossible. And a lot of people may know you, but a lot of people may not, and they could be the one that's the reporter. So I think it's really important to come up with the one sheet that talks about some of the, you know, amazing things that you've done, a little bit about your history, a little bit about, you know, your culture and what has created you as a professional to this point, and then pitch prior to an event that particular city's media and let them know and invite them. Say, you know, even if there's an admission, give them a press pass. If there's not an admission, offer, may I put a press pass at the door for you, or at the event, you know, if it's a Zoom event, and, you know, treat them as the VIPs that they should be treated, and make sure that they have access to the information and directly to you. You know, can I schedule an interview before or after? And it, you know, be very honest. I'd like to, you know, promote my event on the 15th. And I'd like to let your readers know that it's happening. If it's free, mention that it's free. If not, mention, you know, who all is coming. If you know the judges are incredible, which it sounds like you were in an event that happened, mention the judges, mention the event. Basically, you know, share the story and the significance so that if they don't know about it, they can quickly grasp it, because maybe they cover art today, but maybe they covered a different topic before and may not be familiar with what makes an event, you know, significant. Did that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Nasrin, go ahead. You're next.
Yes, Irene John, it was a very informative information you gave us. Can you please put your information down so how we can contact you?
Sure. I will put it in the chat, and also Shani June also has my information.
Yes, and I can, it's on the flyer, but I can definitely post it on our website as well for you.
Thank you.
I'm not actually, I'll be very honest, I'm not actively able to take on clients right now, but I definitely will do short-term consulting. And I also know a lot of people in this space. I also know a lot of writers in this space. So if I can be of help in any way, I definitely want to.
So just contact me and I'll send you her email if you want to contact her. That's perfect. Yes, Mazia.
Thank you for the wonderful information, Irene. And do you have any recommendation for my business, which is digital business and website design, online marketing? Do you have any suggestions how to approach reporters, writers in this area? Thank you.
Absolutely. And I would say this works for all different professions, but I love, and I see a lot of this, you know, the top 5 mistakes people make when creating a website. You know, people like to get information in small bits, and it seems to get a lot of attention when you can, you know, full-heartedly want to share information. I'm sure you see different things in your profession and you're like, oh my gosh, look at these mistakes on this particular, you know, digital space. So you can turn that into an article, and it can be for Forbes magazine, it can be for Entrepreneur magazine. You know, where can you help people that are small businesses before they have money to, you know, get a huge firm or put a lot of money into it? Or I've seen, you know, some websites where the companies are large and I'm like, oh my gosh, what were they thinking? This is so not user friendly and things like that. So I would say there's so many people in your space, Maziar, that the best way to set yourself apart is do educational type pitches. You know, I'd like to come on your program and talk about the top 5 mistakes people make and give them suggestions on how to go about X, Y, and Z. And then in writing, there's just so many different outlets now. Some outlets have more followers than, you know, some of the main publications. I know outlets, I learn of new outlets all the time that have, you know, 2 million followers, and some of the ones that we do recognize may have 500,000. So social media has been incredibly powerful for giving a voice to different outlets, but it also is a long list of places, Maziar, you can provide your 5, you know. The only thing I would say is when you write an article, you create that article just for the one publication. A lot of times people think, well, I wrote this great article, I'm going to pitch it to 5 different publications, but no one wants to have something on their, you know, news outlet or website that has been seen in other places. So make it customized, and I bet you can come up with more than one. And really you become, once you start doing it and thinking, how can I give back to the community? It just comes to you. You're like drinking coffee or tea and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I need to do this. And these are all just ways that will set you apart from, you know, others in your space.